My story, my contribution, it's called Frank Observations. It's on page 61. Frank was an 11-pound miniature dachshund who came to live with us for 15 years. And he was Zen-like in disposition. One of the central precepts of Zen Buddhism is the abandonment of self. And so Frank played against type for all of his 15 years. He was neither whiny, yappy, nor anxious. He came to us and became an object of unconditional affection and comfort. He was less a dog or a pet than a third son, my two boys' little brother. I'll just read a couple of passages to kind of give you an idea what Frank was like. Okay, about the name. I was against a precious, cutesy name for a small dog. My solution was a double entendre, playing off the more familiar wiener or weenie dog, to wit, Frank. Jerry agreed, but my self-satisfaction was short-lived. Not only did I have to explain its meaning anyway, but friends familiar with my story would invariably ask, with Oedipal gravity, why did you name your dog after your father? Almost Zen-like in disposition, Frank was made anxious by only three things: going to the vet, fireworks, and water, whatever evil form it took. He handled doctor visits with Gandhi-like civil disobedience, having to be carried and manipulated by hand. We learned to avoid fireworks altogether after taking him with us to watch the legendary National Mall Independence Day celebration from across the Potomac at the Pentagon when he was just a year old. He was content in Jerry's lap until the first flashbang. Then he disappeared under her blouse. I remember her saying, I think he's trying to mate with my spine. From then on, he stayed home. And water? Total freak out. When the boys were sledding or tubing, he'd run alongside in full cry, biting at the carriage. If the boys were swimming, he'd circle the pool, shrieking and biting the water. The first and only time he encountered the Pacific Ocean, he alternated between running away from the incoming surf and snapping at it on its way back. It was clear to him, and not lost on us, that we were being protected. Frank never met a guest or a lap he couldn't conquer without so much as a bark or a whine, in large part because he could stare down the Sphinx without blinking. He'd confront his intended victim, and if not invited aboard immediately, settle in and engage for as long as it took. At their first encounter, my baby sister Carol was wary of Frank meeting her husband Don. She revealed he doesn't like whiny, yappy little dogs. It was less than 15 minutes, door to sofa, before Frank was inside his very happy new friend's shirt. In short, Frank was not just ours, he was us, in whatever incarnation required. He was embarrassed by the whole dog butt-sniffing ritual and considered other canines' loud, energetic curiosity about him undignified. In fact, his only acknowledgement of another's very existence was a cursory woof, uttered after that other creature was safely out of range. For 15 years, until his brothers had graduated from college, and it was the late summer of 2000, he was the perfect relative and ever-accommodating host. Bevan was competing in the Olympic trials, trying to win a spot in the sport he'd excelled at in college, the decathlon. Dozens of family and friends passed through our house to offer encouragement. Frank was already in decline, and the sheer number of kneecaps and laps simply overwhelmed him. On the day Jerry and I carried him to the vet for his final injection, it was we who were anxious, upset and tearful. We held and caressed him. As he sensed and yielded to the phenobarbital, he regarded us one last time with that calm, transcendent gaze. Don't grieve for me, he seemed to say. It was a good run, but it's time for my karma to be reborn. Good boy, Frank.